In this video, we will do a few more examples of dimensional analysis to convert one type of unit into another. So next one says convert 42 ounces to pounds. And again, we'd want to start with, we'll start with what I have, write that out. And then my goal is to multiply by whatever fraction I need to convert it to the units I need. So again, I'm going to want ounces on bottom and pounds on top. And again, the abbreviation for ounces is OZ for whatever reason, and pounds is LB, again, for some reason. There is a reason, it's not worth getting into. Anyways, so here we have the relationship. Well, let me write this pounds a little better because it looks a little bit like 16, but it should be LB. One of the issues with pounds is that it looks kind of like numbers, but I'll write that as a cursive L. Anyways, there are 16 ounces to a pound. So this actually only is going to take one conversion because after doing that first, the ounces will cancel and I will have my answer directly in pounds. So I'll have 42 over 16 pounds. And again, I could reduce by a factor of 2 here. That would give me 21 over 8 pounds. And I could, convert this to a mixed number. That would be 2 5/8 again, or as a fraction or whatever, but a lot of times we leave it in fractions because say I was baking or measuring, a lot of various like measuring cups are done using fractions, so it sometimes is nice to know, or and decimals are nice in other cases. But when you do round, just make sure that you are using the approximation symbol. Say if I was to do 7/6 on a calculator, make sure you round appropriately, and don't, if you're rounding the nearest hundredth or thousandth, make sure to round up or down. Always round to the nearest number depending on where you're rounding. Anyways, similarly, let's say we wanted to know how many gallons consists of 42 pints. And if you think about a pint like a glass of whatever liquid, how many pints would I need to pour into there to make a gallon? Or if I had 42 pints, what does that consist of in terms of gallons? Again, same deal. I'm using the same number over and over and over again for no real reason except for that 42 is the meaning of life. But if we want to know pints is often abbreviated PT. So we have 42 pints and our goal is to convert it into gallons. Now, if we're looking at our conversion factor, we could go from quarts, we could go directly into quarts using this one, then into gallons using this one, or sometimes you might know a direct one. In this case, there's 8 pints to the gallon. So again, pints should go on bottom because we want those to cancel, and gallons should go on top because that's what we want our answer to be. And there are 8 pints in 1 gallon. Again, it's important that those are equal. If you're thinking about this is equal to this. That ensures that our fraction is equal to 1. And so we're going to end up with 42 over 8 here. Again, reducing by 2 would leave us with 21 over 4 gallons. And that would be 5 1/4. And if you're thinking about like a milk jug or whatever, you can imagine about how much it is, quite a bit. So now moving into time, let's say we wanted to go seconds into hours. Now time is kind of an unusual system, and sometimes we use the metric system like to deal with seconds, like nanoseconds, milliseconds. I'd say it's rather uncommon to use something like kiloseconds, just because the prevalence of minutes and hours for the way that all humans measure time. But let's say we wanted to convert 4,200 seconds into hours. So we have 4,200. Again, start with what we have, multiply by, well, basically I would want to know, well, how many hours are in a second. Now you might know how many hours are in a second right off the bat, but if you wanted to just use some of the more common ones, and S is actually a more common abbreviation for second than SEC, but that either way is fine. We could start by going into minutes because there are 60 seconds in a minute. Obviously, these are ones we probably don't need to look up. 60 seconds into 1 minute. Another thing about minutes is make sure you abbreviate minutes using MIN because M always means meters with units. MI is miles and MIN is minutes. And you don't want to mix them up. And that, knowing your correct conversion, your correct abbreviation is kind of important as well. Then if I wanted to go into hours, well, again, we know that there's 60 minutes to an hour. So I want to put 60 minutes on the bottom, 1 hour on top. And the abbreviation for hour is typically HR. So we could go ahead and we'll use abbreviations for the most part. And again, basically, what I've concluded is that I need to divide by 360 because the seconds will cancel there, minutes will cancel there, and my answer should be in hours after all is said and done. So 4,200 divided by 36. And actually, sorry, not 360. I misspoke and said 360. The denominator here, 60 times 60 would be 3,600, right? Because there's 2 zeros there. Very easy mistake to make. But if I do this, what I'll end up with, well, obviously I could just directly multiply. I'd have 4,200 divided by 3,600. The zeros will cancel. And actually what I'll end up having is exactly what we got from our inches to yards. I'm going to have, 1 1/6 hours. But with time, it's obviously a little bit unusual to write things using fractions or decimals. I could write that as approximately 1.167 hours. Kind of strange, but when dealing with fractions, it's more helpful to sort of think about, well, what is the leftover and what is 1/6 of an hour in terms of minutes? And we know 1/6 of an hour is 10 minutes. So, we could write this as 1:10 in terms of, hours and minutes as sort of a hybrid unit, which is commonly done, like how people measure their height is 6'4", which is kind of a combination, 1 hour, 10 minutes, which would just sort of be taking the extra and not converting that. In the next video, we'll look at some of these answers and just practice converting them into the metric system and practicing more with the metric system because it is just more important in general in the scientific sense. But when dealing with children, often it's better to work with units that are more commonly worked with, like the U.S. system. Again, that's our perspective. I do think it's important to introduce kids to the metric system early. And because it's ultimately more important in the long run.